Hello again. Thank you so much. Now we can start the webinar. So once again, I would like to welcome you all to Sunshine Coast webinar. It's an exciting opportunity for us to be able to learn more about an incredible startup ecosystem. And I would like to thank you again for attending. We have attendees, entrepreneurs, investors, researchers, ecosystem developers, and all other stakeholders in the event. So I wanted to start with giving a little bit insight into Sunshine Coast and how an amazing ecosystem it is. And then I will go ahead and introduce our panelists. So Sunshine Coast is a magical place surrounded by a glass mountain, a truly beautiful and mesmerizing environment. That's why I guess Sean Connery bought an island and decided to live there. So, you know, it's definitely a place to visit, a place to go. It is so beautiful that it has the most yoga and meditation stores across Australia. And tens of thousands of tourists are visiting the region to meditate, to immerse themselves into the beautiful nature of Sunshine Coast. The region is home to one of the most thriving aviation and aerospace industries and a booming startup ecosystem. It is also Australia's most desired holiday destination and has become increasingly recognized as one of the most desirable places in the world to live. So if you're thinking of moving here, it could be the best decision you will ever make. And this webinar will be the best webinar for you to be able to understand more about the ecosystem. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce the agenda of our webinar. So I will give some insight into startup ecosystems ranking based on our global index. And then we'll introduce you guys with Sunshine Coast Ecosystem Portal. And then I will introduce our presenters and panelists. But before I start with the rankings, I would like to welcome Gavin, Tiffany, and Craig to the webinar, who will be presenting a lot about Sunshine Coast and its startup ecosystem. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, good day.
Thank you. So, as you can probably see in the startup ecosystem portal of Sunshine Coast, it is one of the fast-growing startup ecosystems in Australia. It is ranked first in Australia among cities within its population range, and sixth across Australia, and 39th actually globally. So it's in the top 40 startup ecosystems in the world with population less than 500,000 people, which is massive when you compare a lot of European cities that have small populations and so on. So, and also since 2019, they've been having a steady and consecutive growth of the ranking. And in just last year, they jumped 6 spots in the global rankings. The ecosystem is ranked top in 3 main industries: energy and environment, food tech, and hardware and IoT. We have incredibly successful startups in these industries that are changing the world with the innovation that they have brought. And last but not least, the startup ecosystem portal of Sunshine Coast, and I will just share another screen. Well, actually, maybe. So This is the startup ecosystem portal for Sunshine Coast. It has the database of the ecosystem with all the startups, co-working spaces, accelerators, support organizations that have been building the ecosystem and supporting the entrepreneurs. And you can use this map and directory to get familiar with the ecosystem on which startups are operating in which specific industries, which specific sub-industries. So this is a great place for you to be able to have an understanding of what the ecosystem, well, who are the players in the ecosystem. It has key stats of the ecosystem, comparative analysis of the ecosystem. And as you can see, it's 8th in Australia and Oceania and 243rd worldwide. This is an interesting insight for the ecosystem. So there are tax incentive information, investor landscape, events, communities that will be updated across the year to provide you with the most updated data that we have on the startup ecosystem. And also information that will help you more in understanding what are the opportunities in the ecosystem and how you can benefit as an entrepreneur by moving, relocating, expanding your company into the ecosystem. It has, if you are a digital nomad and you want to know, what are the living conditions in terms of the cost and opportunities and so on, this is a great site for blogs that will be constantly updated about Sunshine Coast, the milestone. And also there is a lead generation form. Basically, if you would like to connect with the startup, with the Sunshine Coast Council, you can put your name and information here, and they will provide you with any support that they can for you to relocate, expand, or invest into Sunshine Coast startup ecosystem. And now I would like to introduce again Tiffany, the Industry Development Lead for Future Industries and Innovation for Sunshine Coast Council. The council is a local government body located in Sunshine Coast District of Southeast Queensland. They facilitate many activities for their ecosystem, free business advice, support services to local entrepreneurs, co-working spaces, mentoring, and much more. And I will let Tiffany to basically help us understand more about the ecosystem and introduce the council. Thank you, Tiffany, for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Mahmoud, and great to be here tonight. And most of all, I'm extremely pleased that we've actually got our innovation ecosystem developers here with us, and also some of our amazing startups. So just a quick, I will be giving a short overview of the Sunshine Coast in general. I call it Why Sunshine Coast. And then Craig and Gavin from Silicon Coast will do more of a deep dive into our innovation ecosystem, which I think is our secret ingredient. So let me just share my screen here. And let me just bring that up. I'm hoping you can all see that there. Can you see my screen? Yes. Can you see the screen there?
Yes.
Great. Okay, let me just move this out of the way. Okay, so I'm coming to you today from Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. And before I start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from which we are very privileged to live and work, and they are the Kabi Kabi and Jinnabara people. So as Mahmoud explained earlier, I am the Industry Development Lead for Knowledge Industries, slight title change there, Mahmoud, apologies for that, and innovation at Sunshine Coast Council. My role actually sits within the economic development branch and involves supporting our innovation ecosystem, which is a network which helps local businesses grow and connect with each other and innovate, obviously, as well. So ultimately, I am a connector of people and an advocate. So whether it be to other businesses, local and state government bodies, major institutions, or community groups, just to make it easier for businesses to grow and grow their ideas as well. One second, here we go. So just to give you a bit of a, where are we? Where is the Sunshine Coast? So we're located in the southeast corner of the state of Queensland, and the Sunshine Coast is just over 1 hour's drive from the state capital of Brisbane. Australia, for those who don't know, has 3 levels of government: federal, state and local, and Sunshine Coast Council is a local government body for our region. The Sunshine Coast is the 9th largest local government area in Australia, and that's out of 537 across the country. We are known as one of Australia's fastest growing regions. However, we are also building a reputation as a region that is successfully facilitating sustainable growth. This is actually a vision which has been articulated by our community and is a guiding principle in our 3 strategic plans, which cover economic development, community development, and environment and livability. So our current population is 346,000 to 350,000, and it's projected to grow to more than 540,000 people over the next 20 years. So Council's vision is to be Australia's most sustainable region: healthy, smart and creative. This is a vision which helps Council to provide a balanced approach to plan for the future and ensure that our region is equipped to meet the needs of our growing population now and into the future. So our region features more than 70 kilometres of open coastline, pristine hinterland and world-class beaches, while our conservation estate is arguably one of the largest owned by a local government in southeast Queensland. The Sunshine Coast is probably mostly known as a favourite vacation and lifestyle destination with an ideal climate, abundance of nature and good infrastructure. Post the global pandemic, the Sunshine Coast has experienced an increase in people relocating here, particularly from Sydney and Melbourne, for exactly these reasons. So, guided by our regional economic development strategy, our economy has been diversifying over the past 5 to 10 years away from tourism and hospitality. They are still an important part of our economy, but you'll now see that we're encompassing food and agriculture, manufacturing, knowledge industries, health and wellbeing, aviation, and the screen industry as well. And as a result of this, we have seen a marked increase in the average household income and have been recognised by the Intelligent Communities Forum as a Smart 21 Intelligent Community 8 years in a row. This nomination ultimately recognises best practice in broadband deployment and its use, workforce development, innovation and digital inclusion. So I think that one of our key strengths is our people and our ability to collaborate across industries and geographic locations. We have a buzzing ecosystem of talent and innovation, which Gavin and CJ from Silicon Coast will go into in more detail after this. The Sunshine Coast offers a strong foundation to grow and scale business with education and research providers, incubators, accelerators, co-working and maker spaces, business support programs, and a thriving network of industry clusters and business chambers. These groups are becoming the fabric of our business landscape. They're active communities which educate, support, and collaborate to drive their industries forward. The region also offers an array of youth innovation and entrepreneurship programs and events. This is something that myself and CJ are actually helping to develop in the Sunshine Coast at the moment, and that's particularly around STEM and creative industries. An example of this, in 2024, the Sunshine Coast will host over 3,000 students from around the world for the RoboRave Global Championship. So in 2022, Silicon Coast also launched Forward Fest, which is a week-long innovation festival. The vision is that this event will provide a platform and focus point for our innovation ecosystem, encompassing business, creativity and community. Once again, Gavin and CJ will talk more about this later on. So the Sunshine Coast has seen significant investment in infrastructure in the past 10 years. On the slide, you can see here a map, which is what we refer to as our game-changing infrastructure projects. So just to give you a little bit more detail on those, the new Sunshine Coast International Airport opened in late 2020. It actually is opening the Sunshine Coast up to expanded domestic and international services, meaning accessibility is only improving year on year. We anticipate that direct services to Southeast Asian markets within the next 2 to 3 years. The Sunshine Coast is also home to Australia's only greenfield city development, with over 50 hectares currently under development, creating the new Maroochydore City Centre. This development is offering unique opportunities for companies from around the world to test and trial new technologies on our digital infrastructure, which includes access to a Wi-Fi 6 network, smart multifunction poles, sensors and kiosks. And if you look on our website and the link that I will put up at the end, there is a lot of information about that. The new Sunshine Coast University Hospital is the largest in the Southern Hemisphere and is adjacent to a growing health and wellbeing precinct, which encompasses a mind and neuroscience research institute and also a teaching hospital. So also of note is that the Sunshine Coast is now has Australia's fastest data telecommunications connection to Asia and the second fastest to the United States, thanks to the Sunshine Coast International Broadband Network, which entered service in mid-2020. It is also a local government first for Australia. In 2000, to give you some background, Council set a long-term vision to improve broadband infrastructure and services to the community in a bid to improve connectivity, drive affordability and remove barriers to entry. As a result, the region has invested significantly in digital infrastructure over the past 20 years. The NextDC Sunshine Coast Edge Data Centre, which was a recent investment in our region, opened in 2022. Introduces a new era of low latency connectivity, data capacity, speed and reliability for regional businesses and data heavy industries. So all of this investment in digital infrastructure makes it easier for business to compete nationally and globally, and also ensure resilience and digital inclusion. So just looking ahead to the future, in June 2022, the Sunshine Coast region was recognised by UNESCO as an international site of excellence known as a biosphere. This means that we join a global network of UNESCO biospheres in 134 countries, and it basically cements our commitment to protecting and enhancing our region, our communities, economy, and our natural assets. So what this designation means is that it will hold the region to its pledge of sustainable growth and ensure that environmental, social and cultural and economic needs are balanced and protected. And this is something that is now will be woven into future economic and community development strategies. So one other exciting event looming on the horizon for the Sunshine Coast is the 2032 Brisbane Olympic and Paralympic Games. The Sunshine Coast will host a number of the events, including 4 key venues, and some of those events are football, basketball, marathon, mountain biking, cycling and kiteboarding. Obviously, you can see from these pictures that the region provides the perfect backdrop and environment for these events. So I guess the legacy vision for the Brisbane 2032 Games will be seeking to secure new and improved transport systems for the region, increased hotel and accommodation options, and a focus on the Sunshine Coast becoming an accessible and inclusive tourism destination, something which one of our co-founders will be talking about later on. And also projects that protect and enhance our natural environment, because the 2032 Games will be a climate positive Games. So I've just got a short video here which is where you'll hear from some of our ecosystem leaders and local businesses who talk about how the Sunshine Coast has all of the key ingredients required to support an innovative and thriving tech industry. So I'm hoping that you can hear and see this.
The exciting bit for me right now is how it's all coming together at once for the Sunshine Coast.
It is a region of opportunity. It's a region that has its natural beauty, embraces community, and really is one of the best regions in Australia, if not the world.
The tech industry here is supported at all levels. And the key ingredients really are the infrastructure, making sure that we've got that access to the outside world via the submarine cable, the data center, we've got a purpose-built CBD going forward, international airport, we've got a great health hub, we've got support from government, we've got a great business community supporting those.
Thank you for that, everybody. I hope you were able to hear and see that. If you'd like to learn more about opportunities on the Sunshine Coast, I have just put a QR code and you can just use this link to access some of our ebook and video resources. You can also keep up to date with the latest developments. So now I would like to introduce Gavin Keeley and Craig CJ Josick from Silicon Coast, who will be facilitating the next part of our session. Silicon Coast is the Sunshine Coast Innovation and Entrepreneurship Network. Over the last 10 years, this not-for-profit community has evolved into the heart and lifeblood of our innovation ecosystem, driven by a Give First approach, which facilitates introductions and shares knowledge to improve skills, capability, and diversity. So Gavin Keeley, just very quickly, is chair and co-founder, an experienced technologist and business leader with a career spanning executive corporate roles and international consultancy. And CJ is co-founder and a true connector, mentor and collaborator, if ever I have met one. CJ has many years of experience in SMEs, business management, corporate strategy, and digital transformation. So I do have another video here. So CJ, was I doing something wrong there with the sound, or if before I play another video?
It was working, but then it stopped, Tiff. So
okay, and do you know why I think that was?
through.
I think that's because I muted myself. So I will play this video and it should hopefully work. So bear with me. So this next video is really just a bit of an introduction to our collaborative innovation ecosystem. And then CJ and Gavin will take it away from there.
The Sunshine Coast is a dynamic and thriving business environment, really well connected, supported by industry groups who've got great infrastructure and a great tech ecosystem around it.
We really encourage industry groups and chambers of commerce. It's all about working together. We'll be stronger for the region and give a better support for both the businesses and individuals to grow and prosper.
The culture here is really, really good. There are a number of startups in this building, in the Innovation Centre. We talk all the time. There's no barriers. People support one another. They share ideas. And then when you get out of this building into the broader community, that openness and collaboration continues.
Actually, the Sunshine Coast is a pretty collaborative region. When we look at our national averages, it sort of sits around 30%. But in the Sunshine Coast, we've seen this growing year on year. So I think in 2019, we were seeing that innovators who collaborated were sitting at about 35%, and last year they were sitting about 40%.
One of the strongest attributes of the coast are the networks in the area, and there's absolutely no shortage of communities for different industries and manufacturing in particular. The people that we're meeting are very experienced in the work that they're doing, and certainly their networks themselves are incredibly strong and global.
Our undersea cable being established, this is now inviting more companies. More businesses, people to realise that Sunshine Coast is actually an area that they can actually do business, not just nationally, but internationally. And we're finding we're, as part of Southern Coast, welcoming those people into our community. We're not just networking, we're talking about your business, we're talking about opportunities, we're talking about the region. They're great conversations.
Yeah, I think the Sunshine Coast has a particular DNA. We've grown up as a group of communities, and that group of communities that's come together really does encourage collaboration, and that exists right through our business space. And it's great to see businesses from different sectors, businesses from same sectors really collaborating together to win together.
Okay. Gavin and CJ, it's all yours.
Over to you, Gavin.
Yeah, no. So hopefully everyone can see I'm sharing my screen. Thanks for that, Tiff, and for all of those people calling in from Europe. 17 years ago, I left the United Kingdom and decided to call the Sunshine Coast home, and I can tell you over the last 17 years that I've lived and worked here, the transformation has been just absolutely outstanding. Traditionally a tourist destination, it's kind of what the Sunshine Coast was known for. The economy was predominantly tourism based and retail and a fair bit of construction. But over the last 17 years, there's been an absolute transformation of the economy, as Tiff has already mentioned, not least in the health sector, where we've got an absolutely amazing medical facility and precinct that's been built the southern end of the Sunshine Coast in Kawana, which happens to be very close to where I live. So it has been an amazing transformation over this period, and we actually were awarded 10 years ago the Google ETAN Award for digital activity. And what I particularly loved about that is it wasn't a trophy that was handed out by a committee of the great and the good. It was actually based on usage data, and the Sunshine Coast was the most active digital community outside of a city in Australia, and that brought a lot of us kind of like out of the shadows, and we kind of like found each other on the basis that we couldn't just singly have been responsible for that. So there must have been a whole group of us who were doing digital things, and that's how Silicon Coast was born. As Tiff said, this is our 10th anniversary year, and over that period of time, we've seen we've hosted over 100 events on the coast. We've got now literally thousands of people in the ecosystem who are either developing and launching startups or supporting organizations that are trying to do that. And The other thing that is, quite unique, and again, Tiff mentioned this, the Sunshine Coast is a very desirable region, both nationally within Australia, but now internationally. A lot of people, and at the start of the call it was mentioned that Sean Connery had property here, but so does Richard Branson and others. And there is also a huge high net worth community who are now actively starting to discover the opportunities in early stage investment through startup accelerator type activities. So I also run the local Suncoast Angels group, and we're part of a national network now of angels across Australia who are typically investing anywhere between $4 and $6 million per month into startups in our ecosystem. And that's just coming out of the angel groups. In Australia since 2012, we went from an annual paltry $83 million invested in startups to a peak in 2022 of $10 billion, including 4 $1 billion months that actually occurred during that period. Now, lots of people around the world have been hit by the economic changes, and we haven't been completely insulated by that, but we're still seeing significant deal flow and investment still going into our startup ecosystem. And in Southeast Queensland, we already have a number of global unicorns. So we've got our own billion-dollar businesses that have been created over the last 10 years within this overall ecosystem. But specifically, the thing that sets the Sunshine Coast apart is that natural lifestyle. Being part of that biosphere really does lend itself to thinking about the sustainable development goals. And one of the things historically that Silicon Coast has already done is to run startup weekends, which could be characterized by, in 54 hours, launch a $1 billion business, which is very much what Techstars has been doing with its global brand. However, last year we decided to experiment and be innovative ourselves, and we actually did a startup weekend that was focused on the sustainable development goals. And one of the founders we've got with us on the call tonight was actually the winner at last year's event, and has decided to basically throw in and actually turn that into an ongoing concern. So we'll hear from Alana later. But really, this 10-year journey has been quite phenomenal, and actually looking forward to the next 5. Now we've actually got the infrastructure in place, the capital starting to come in place. Venture capital firms are now actually setting up a presence based on this, what I call the southern migration. So the major capitals of Sydney and Melbourne, the Sunshine Coast over the last 2 years has been the #1 inward destination for internal migration in Australia. And a lot of those people are professional, digitally active, creative people that have decided now to call the Sunshine Coast home, and increasingly are actually joining the local business community and starting to engage with our fabulous founders and startups here on the coast. So that is really the story of the last 10 years, and it has been, as I say, a phenomenal transformation. But looking ahead, the next 5 years are just as exciting, and I don't see any reason why that growth is actually going to diminish or actually not continue to even accelerate. CJ, over to you. Where you gone, Craig? There he is.
Thank you. Thanks, Gavin. I just realized I was on mute. I should say good morning to everyone, actually. I think it's morning there, actually, and it's evening here. Look, I'm mindful of time, and I encourage you to go to our website, look at the information that's there, and a lot has been said already about this amazing area that we actually do live in as part of the world. I just want to encourage you to look at Forward Fest. Forward Fest is a 5-day festival, encapsulates everything that's just already been said. It's a festival that we're very, very proud of and excited to, and I encourage you to have a look at that. It really does bring everyone together, from small business to teachers, researchers, a whole range of different industries, and that's really what encapsulates Silicon Coast. And that's a really exciting event to be a part of. So again, I encourage you to have a look at, if not this year, next year. It's actually run at around the start of each year. This year it's in May, and next year it'll be in April. So yeah, certainly encourage you. We have a welcoming approach to that as well, and we'll actually be able to encourage and invite you to look around our region, and we'll be able to facilitate that as well. So again, really looking forward to hopefully welcoming you to our region.
So we've actually got some of our fabulous founders have joined us on the call, and in typical startup style, they are actually scattered around the world and the country at the moment. So as is the life of a founder, we've actually got, in fact, I only think there's one of our founders who's actually currently resident on the Sunshine Coast on this actual call. So if Alana, are you actually there? Are you able to step up? I don't know if somebody actually needs to allow her to step forward so she can present and speak, because I noticed she's still on the participants list, not on the host list. So we need to get our 4 fabulous founders promoted, I think, so that they can share and speak. Is someone? Yeah, there's Alana. Yay. Hey, Alana. You're muted and I can't see you.
Is that better?
Hey, that's always better. That's awesome. Great to see you, Alana. So, and yes, as I've already said, you are our fabulous 2022 Startup Weekend winner. So why don't you tell us all about how your life has changed since you decided to give up 54 hours in the weekend and throw yourself into startup land?
Where do you start, Gavin? So as Gav said, I am the founder and CEO now of Accessibility, Sensory Needs and Inclusivity Score. And having won the awards, as Gav has mentioned, at Techstars Startup Weekend that Silicon Coast facilitated and was supported by Sunshine Coast Council last year, I have experienced firsthand the support and guidance that is available here on the Sunshine Coast. I am a physiotherapist of 15 years and sister to a brother who has a significant disability, and that what has driven the passion to develop Accessibility, Sensory Needs and Inclusivity Score, which in Australia we like to shorten things, so we affectionately call that the ASI score. So in the last year, I have had assistance from Gavin as my mentor to connect me with our now Chief Information Officer, Andrew, who was a part of the Silicon Coast ecosystem. Tiffany has assisted me and Jess and I should say, in connecting with businesses in Caloundra through Jo Ryan, who is from the Economic Development Branch, and she has supported us wonderfully within the first week of sharing our expression of interest to the local businesses in Caloundra. We had 7 businesses eagerly sign up, so that's wonderful. We're collating our data to ensure that the algorithm will provide what we're after. So it has been a big year. A little bit more about what ASI is, just so that you have an idea, is currently it is very difficult for people with visible and invisible disabilities to source all the information that they require to see if a venue suits their needs before they attend that venue. And if information is provided, it's somewhat inconsistent and unreliable. So to support our users, we are developing a score come certification in the future, so that we're setting the benchmark for sharing of information with regards to access and sensory needs. This will all be on one website in one spot, so it's nice and easy for our users, people with visible and invisible disabilities and their families to access. So that's our users. And on the other hand, we're servicing this by basically assisting our local businesses to improve their service delivery by partnering them with other businesses that can support them to improve what they offer with regards to accessibility, sensory needs, and inclusivity score. Doing this will basically ensure that we make the most social impact as we possibly can and set the benchmark for accessible tourism, starting here first on the Sunshine Coast, with the plan to ensure that the Olympics in 2032 is very inclusive and that anyone who would love to travel here to enjoy that is able to do that and plan that from the comfort of their own home. Last year I was at Forward Fest as a volunteer. This year, I hope to see you all at Forward Fest again as a volunteer and as a speaker and attendee, of course. So hopefully I will get to see you all there, because ultimately what I have learned in this last year is that collaboration is the key in the way that we can make this world a better place. So I hope to see you all there.
Thanks, Alana. That was awesome. And I'll see you real soon back on the coast. And joining us live now from the United States of America, if we can promote Owen to come forward. So Owen is currently in the US, actually pitching his business, raising money and telling the world about how he's going to make it a better place. So Owen, where are you? We've got Fab. Where's Owen? There he is. Hello. Owen. And what time is it with you right now? Tell everyone.
It is 1:47 a.m., Gavin.
There we go. So the life of a founder, right? Absolutely it is. So we thank you for staying up to talk to us all. So Owen, just tell us your story and how Coach Welly is actually going to change the world.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, look, this is very much the life of a startup, coming in at 1:47 a.m. after 4 days at the biggest health and fitness conference and trade show in North America. So at Coach Welly, we've been working on a platform for about 4 years that essentially is a digital health engagement platform for gyms, corporates and insurers. And it's designed to enable those businesses to personally engage, reward and support their members and employees at scale. And it's a full ecosystem play. Connects data from every source, apps, wearables, gym member management software, fitness equipment, etc. And it's an ecosystem that hasn't existed in the industry before. So our mission is to help millions of people measurably improve their health and wellness. And we can do that with innovative technology such as scanning your finger with the camera in your phone using our app, and accurately assessing heart rate variability. So you no longer need a wearable to actually biometrically validate health improvement. So in San Diego, the last 4 days, I've been speaking with global equipment suppliers and software companies. And what's been fascinating is that we've really been validated as something that doesn't exist. And we've been talked about at the highest levels in the global industry now. We've just done a deal with the largest fitness equipment manufacturer by revenue in the world, Matrix Fitness. And, you know, this really wouldn't be possible without the support of our local ecosystem. The Sunshine Coast is not only one of the most incredible places to live, and I've traveled all over the world, and really the Sunshine Coast is hands down the #1 place in the world that I would choose to live and bring up my family. And as an ocean lover, I surf and I kite surf and I foil, and so that's a big part of it for me. But I've had a number of people say to me, "Owen, you're going to have to move to the USA because we are going to have enormous success in North America." And I've said, look, there's a hard line in the sand. The Sunshine Coast has everything that we need, and it's significantly better lifestyle for my family than anywhere else. The technology and ecosystem there is fantastic, and I'll happily travel and we'll happily set up a team in the USA, but we won't be moving there. And I have to give a really special shout out to Gavin and CJ, in particular Gavin. You know, in terms of that collaborative approach, that support, that person that connects you, Gavin has been an incredible resource for us, connecting us with angel groups and capital. Our lead angel investor on our current seed raise is Angel Loop. That is the organization Gavin mentioned that connects all of the angel networks in Australia. And, the way that we got introduced to them was through Gavin. And so it's, yes, there's all of the infrastructure and all of the growth there, but ultimately it comes down to the people. And I've yet to enter an ecosystem anywhere in the world where the people are as friendly, are as open. And so, being small has its disadvantages, and the Sunshine Coast is a small region, but also has its advantages. And that incredibly personal, community-based approach is one of the benefits that really the Sunshine Coast has. So, I can't speak highly enough of the ecosystem here. And if you're in startup land, if you're a developer, if you're in the ecosystem, if you're an investor, it's one of the places that I think you should have in your top 3 in the whole world to seriously look at coming and exploring.
Yeah, thanks, Owen. And I'm going to let you go to bed now because you've been an absolute rock star staying up for this. So thanks very much.
Thanks,
yeah, I'm going to call Fab next. I did see her name flash up. So Fab, where in the world are you actually joining us from today?
Hello. I'm in the Hunter Valley at the moment, so New South Wales.
So
I can't see myself, but
I guess you're about, 900 kilometers south of us at the moment, something like that?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think, the fact that, as you mentioned, we're all a little bit scattered around doing what we do as startup founders is a great example of how well connected the Sunshine Coast is within Australia and the world. I was commenting with somebody this afternoon how easy it was to catch a plane from Brisbane, close enough, get to Newcastle Airport, and then quickly get whatever I needed to do done. We're really well connected. The Sunshine Coast Airport itself, I've seen it more times than I care to say in the last 2 weeks. Flying to Sydney, Adelaide, the way we can connect everywhere is amazing. And look, let me share a little bit about my story and my connection with the Sunshine Coast. You may hear a slightly un-Australian accent still. I'm originally from Italy, and I lived in Sydney for a number of years. And in 2013, so 10 years ago, had a great opportunity to join what used to call itself a startup in insurance in the Sunshine Coast, UE. They are well beyond the startup phase at this point, but they used to be. And I was given the opportunity to join and lead their marketing department. Now, I didn't tell my boss at the time, but it was supposed to be a 2-year plan, coming from Sydney and being at that time still fairly young, 2 years in the Sunshine Coast is going to be a great experience, but of course we'll have to go back to Sydney. That's where the opportunities are, right? Well, myself and my family are still based there at this point in time. And through that experience with UE, I've realized 2 things that have shaped what I'm doing at the moment. One is that there is a great opportunity for customer-centric businesses in the insurance space. And that's what Covered is. And I'll tell you a bit about us in a second. And the second one is that the Sunshine Coast truly has become the capital of Australia, of insurance in Australia. So many big businesses now that were startups before have based themselves in the Sunshine Coast, and it is a great place to be. In terms of what Covered does, we are a digital broker for all things insurance. Our vision is that we can enable a world where people don't need to worry about insurance ever again. We recognize, and yes, I am a marketer in insurance, but we recognize that people don't want to do anything to do with insurance, really. All they want is to be protected. So what we've created is a platform that can allow people to do just that, not have to worry about getting quotes, comparing, renewing, maintaining their insurance. We use data and technology to do that for people. And touching upon something that Owen just mentioned before, we've also been really lucky to get support from investors in the local ecosystem. So, Suncoast Angels, they used to meet down the road, literally 75 meters from my house. So I've been a regular at their meetings, but support from Suncoast Angels, support from Angel Loop, Brisbane Angels going a little bit further. It's really great to see how well plugged in the Sunshine Coast is within the investment ecosystem as well. So, we've all said it, and I think maybe people are starting to believe us. The Sunshine Coast is an amazing place to live, to grow a family, be in business, big or small, and to start a new business. So for anybody who's interested, there's lots of resources, as everybody's pointed out, but also personally, if you want to connect on LinkedIn and ask me any questions about my experience, I'd be very happy to talk to anybody.
Thanks, Fab, and enjoy a glass of wine for me. Now you're in a great wine region in Australia. The Hunter Valley does have
more than one, don't worry.
more than one. I'm talking bottles, of course, not glasses. So anyway, fantastic. And lucky last, I just want to give a bit of an introduction. So Tim, I actually stumbled into because I found out that a very famous American footballer has invested in his company, and I couldn't understand why Joe Montana, who's one of the greatest American football players ever to have lived and was certainly somebody I admired when I was younger, had put money into a dinky-die little startup on the Sunshine Coast. And even more fascinating when I found out that Tim lives literally just around the corner from me, around about 50 meters from my front door. So Tim, take it away and tell us all about GreaseBoss and how the hell you managed to get Joe Montana to give you money.
Thanks for the intro, Gavin. It's quite the one.
And you're in Adelaide, right? So you're in Adelaide.
I'm in the other wine country in Australia. So there's literally that's the grapevines out the side there. So
nice.
Down here,
nice.
I'm not down here for work though. I'm down here for my little sister's wedding. But anyway, the Sunshine Coast has been amazing for us. I mean, so I am one of the co-founders and CEO of GreaseBoss, and I'll run you through, I guess, a little bit of the story that we actually formed at a startup weekend, very much like the guys at CJ and Gavin put together. We formed at one in Brisbane, and we created a company around a system that verifies that heavy industrial machinery is greased correctly. It's very unsexy, and most people don't really look at it too brightly, except for those that know the impact of this. So every year, heavy industry that produces all the goods that we consume loses about over $1 trillion in unplanned downtime. So that's when their equipment breaks down. And up to 70% of that unplanned downtime and those breakdowns can be attributed to incorrect lubrication. So in the past, there was no way to actually verify that equipment was getting greased correctly. It's a bit of a kind of cross your fingers and hope that the guys are doing it properly. We've built an industrial IoT system to actually track and trace and verify that this is being done correctly. So we've the only ones in the world to have a product like this in the market, and we've got a lot of attention from a number of different industries. We have some of the world's biggest mining companies, lubrication and oil companies as our customers, big heavy rail, asphalt, and water utilities. So it applies very broadly across industry. And look, it's something, as I said, it's not sexy, but it hits a really strong niche. But I guess the story about GreaseBoss evolving from this startup weekend, there was 3 of us co-founders, and I was on the Sunshine Coast, one was in Brisbane, and one was on the Gold Coast. And look, we chipped away as every startup does overnight and over the weekends. And then we actually got into Y Combinator. We were lucky enough to be able to do that program remotely. So I remember doing this. We're at the stage of our business. I was building units in my garage at 2 a.m. because it was on San Francisco time, doing the Y Combinator modules in my garage whilst I'm building units. And through Y Combinator, we had a lot of big investors from the States and also locally within Australia, see the vision and see the impact that we can make. So we managed to raise a lovely, nice seed round there through that program. And Joe Montana happened to be the lucky last one in the round. We said we're closing it off, we've got enough. And then Joe Montana came along and said, well, we can't say no to Joe, right? So, and look, it's one that turns heads and gets people's attention, so that's great. But when at that point there, we said, all right, we need to turn this into a real business. And I said to my co-founders, I said, look, I am not leaving the Sunshine Coast. I've lived in Brisbane and there's no way I'm going to the Gold Coast. You guys come up here. So I actually had my 2 other co-founders and one of our first employee moved to the Sunshine Coast for the business, and all of them couldn't be happier. Since then, we've been a part of a number of these small, well, not small, they've actually growing very quickly, but these focused groups within the innovation culture of the Sunshine Coast. And I've never felt so supported before in my entrepreneurial journeys. It's such a good community there. Everyone wants to help out. Everyone wants to lend a helping hand. And look, I couldn't speak more highly of it. And CJ and Gavin, these are two of the key players within the region, doing incredible things. So I take my hat off to you guys. And I also have to take my hat off to Sunshine Coast Council. They are very forward-thinking. They've been planning this innovation for years. I've lived on the Sunny Coast for a long time, and it's great to see these plans like the Greenfield CBD and the internet cable hookup. All of this is now starting to come to fruition, and the benefits of these investment that the council has made a long time ago is really starting to pick off, and there's a lot to grow. So lovely place. I couldn't speak more highly of it. And as the others said, I draw the line in the sand. The headquarters of Grease Boss is always remain in Sunshine Coast. Well, there are branches around the world, but the HQ is here on the Sunny Coast.
Yeah, cheers, Tim, and
thanks
Tim.
for
that. So yeah, look, I think we've only got a few minutes left. I don't know if there's any questions on Q&A from any of the attendees, but yeah, for our fabulous founders, I just want to say thank you for you giving up your time from wherever you are in the world. As I say, hopefully Owen's now tucked up in bed at nearly 2 a.m. And I know Fab's down in the Hunter, and yeah, thanks for staying up, Tim. And it's nice to see the sun still up in Adelaide, but it's definitely in bed in Queensland, that's for sure. So yeah, without further ado, I'll hand back to our host and say thank you all for allowing us to showcase our fabulous region.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was amazing to learn so much about Sunshine Coast. There's always a limit to how much a small city could grow, but you guys have shown that you can break the ceiling and make it much more than the limit that it was. So this is great. Thank you for everyone attending, and I hope you have a great night, evening, morning, the rest of the day from wherever you are in the world. Thanks again, and have a wonderful rest of the day. The video will be published on a YouTube channel. So whoever has missed or didn't get the full webinar, they can watch it in a day on the YouTube channel, and can reach out to Tiffany. She shared her email for anyone interested in exploring the ecosystem more. Thank you, Gavin, Craig, Tiffany, and all the entrepreneurs for a wonderful webinar.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Mama. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Good night.
Bye.